need to
Well,
be.
kind of talking a little bit about your stuff on the DMV stuff, addressing the DMV stuff. Some of the threats that I've seen over the years, specifically to DMV stuff, was how different states are handling confidential informants within the state. And so a lot of them will end up taking, embedding a status in the actual photo ID or in your driver's license, and then when it gets swiped or
Sure.
pinged by law enforcement, if you're a confidential CI, like it lets that officer know, like, hey, pass or no pass, let those guys go. Well, what ended up happening was in a few different places was the cartels ended up figuring out, like, hey, we could start compromising those databases and looking for who might be a CI that's buying from some of our downstream guys and, boost our profits. So what ended up happening was a few dudes ended up getting shot in the face when they'd go and buy their stuff from a distributor, because he'd be like, hey, give me your ID. We're going to swipe it. And then from that, like, oh, you're a CI. Boom, you're done, So I kind of like some of that risk matrix in some of those areas is really interesting because it's got overlap in the physical world and the cyber world and the physical security and the security of drivers and, the tertiary effects on, election security. And like, there's just so much stuff just tied up in that one small thing that, those guys might be thinking, oh, well, it's just network security or it's just IDS, like it's the impact is so much greater across the board. And that, so that's, I share all that because the theme that we are kind of pursuing a little bit under the covers is, it's not all about cyber anymore. It's not all about trophy hacking. It's about all these other secondary and third order effects and compromises that maybe some people might not know about or think about, or, hey, maybe there's a DMV out there that's working with their, Bureau of Investigation in intrastate, and that's how they're handling confidential informants,
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, whenever you have a situation where you got, a combination of organized crime, actually getting into, serious data elements and things like that. I mean, that starts to become really dangerous, right? I mean, there's, the worldwide drug cartel, that's trillions of dollars, right?
Right.
That's gonna buy access to, data sets and things like that aren't, may not be as well controlled as they really ought to be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and also a lot of the states are looking at it from just the fact of like, well, I've got 2 or 3 FTEs, that should be enough.
Hold on, I'm getting some weird audio in my. Huh. All right, sorry.
I was saying sometimes a state, a state's DMV, it might be thinking, oh, well, we're going to go super heavy on, physical security and cops and all that, state troopers, but they're not necessarily pushing in more cybersecurity and more focus on the cybersecurity process and, all of that. So,
well, I mean, I think we both know that, the level of IT and automation in law enforcement industry, especially at the state and local level, can be, pretty minimal.
Right.
There's not a lot of, there's just real limited budgets there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And things like that, where it just doesn't allow for maybe the the top level of security that you might get, was say a bureau database or something like that. It's going to be more highly protected.
Right.